In this lesson, we're going to be talking about static pressure. That is, the deeper you go, how does the pressure increase? And note that this is going to be about static, so the fluids aren't moving. We're just talking about the deeper you go, the greater the pressure is going to be. All right, so let's take a look at pressure, which is kind of an interesting quantity. But basically, the whole idea is when you're in a liquid, right, or in a container, you have all the, it doesn't have to be a liquid, it could be air. You have all these particles that are heading in and bouncing off, right? That's what's happening. You got all these particles bouncing in and off. They could be bouncing in whatever direction, right? And they're creating a force, right? And that created that buoyant force we talked about. But we also want to look at, like, at any point in space inside of a fluid, there is a force at that point that's going to occur. And we call that the pressure. Now, the amount of the pressure is the force per unit area, because it's like the more area there is, the more molecules there would be bouncing off of that section in space. So pressure's this quantity, it's a force per unit area. Now, this is kind of tricky because you might be like, whoa, it's force per area, but you say it's a scalar quantity. Isn't force like a vector in area? So pressure is the fact that there is a force in any direction for that object, right? So you have all of these particles that are coming in and hitting it in all directions. So we're just talking about the total amount of force on that surface or that area there. Okay, and so the pressure means if you were to narrow down the area into a small piece of area and do the force per area for that little piece there, it would be a scalar quantity because it has no direction. Because in any, like if you make a sphere, like in some, like a tiny sphere, it's going to be experiencing a force in all directions on that sphere. And so that's why pressure doesn't have a direction there. Now, in terms of our SI units, we call it a Pascal. It's newtons because it's newtons per meter squared, force per area. And standard air pressure in the atmosphere is about 1 times 10 to the 5th Pascal, which is also known as 1 atmosphere. This is a non-SI unit. So we normally use pascals as our standard unit, but this is our sometimes called 1 atmosphere, because on Earth, we call that is what our atmosphere is. That is what you feel near the surface of the Earth. Okay, so let's look. There's a relationship between pressure, because you probably understand this. If you go deeper in the water, somehow the pressure increases. Or if you go into the pool and go to the bottom, your ears can pop. Or when you fly higher into the air, there's a pressure change and things like that. So there's a relationship between your height and the weight and where you are in the fluid. And the deeper you are, the greater the pressure is. And there's a static pressure equation, and let's talk about where this comes from. Okay, so let's go through an example, because we can derive this from our buoyant force. This is actually a natural consequence from our buoyant force here. Is we say, like, imagine I have an object here, right? It's like a cylinder. It doesn't have to be a cylinder. It's a cylinder with area A. And we're in a fluid here, right? So it's filled. This is filled with, like, we're submerged in the water. So it's a cylinder with area A. Now, we talked about the buoyant force being upward, right? So if we draw our free body diagram, we have our buoyant force upward, and we have mg. Now, I'm just going to focus on the buoyant force over here, right? The buoyant force is from all the molecules, like, hitting the water. But specifically on the top and the bottom is you're going to have a force on the top, and you're going to have a force on the bottom down here. So this is from the top, and this is from the bottom. And I'm going to argue that the buoyant force is really the sum of the force on the bottom, which is pointing upwards, minus the force from the top, which is pointing downwards. That's the pressure, right? Pressure is in all directions, and specifically, it's squishing this thing here from the top and the bottom side here. So both of those forces combined will add up to be the buoyant force, right? Because remember, the buoyant force is all of the molecules around it hitting it. So specifically there. Now, in terms of pressure, right? Because pressure is our force per area. We know that the force on the bottom is the pressure at the bottom times the area minus the pressure at the top times the area is the buoyant force. And this buoyant force is rho g times the volume that we're being displaced by here. Now, let's say that this cylinder has a height h. The volume of that cylinder is just the area times the height, right? That's how we do prisms. volume of prisms. You do that area times the height there. So this is rho g times the area times the height is equal to the pressure at the bottom times the area. Or I'm going to factor out the area. So you got pressure at the bottom and the pressure at the top times the area. The areas cancel, and you get the pressure at the bottom. If you move the pressure at the top over, is the pressure at the top plus rho gh. Okay, so that means in order to have a net buoyant force upward, the force on the bottom's got to be greater, which means there has to be a greater pressure at the bottom, and this is the relationship. This is P naught plus rho gh. You always got to remember that you're adding, the deeper you go, the greater the pressure is going to be. Okay? This is called this is our pressure calculation. Sometimes, just as a side note, the amount of pressure greater than 1 atmosphere is sometimes called the gauge pressure, because 1 atmosphere is what you normally feel. There's pressure from the air around you right now that you're just used to. You don't feel like things are pushing on you because you've lived with it your entire life. So you're just naturally acclimated to that pressure. So sometimes we talk about the difference in pressure beyond 1 atmosphere as the gauge pressure. Okay, let's go through some examples here. So I have a pool filled with water to a depth of 5 meters. Calculate the pressure at the bottom of a pool. So the pool here, we have water, right? And this is 5 meters. The pressure at the top is the atmospheric pressure. The pressure up here at the very top, because right at that surface is going to have the same pressure. The pressure of the water right there is equal to what it is from the air is just going to be 10 to the 5th pascals. Okay, and we want to know what the pressure down here is. Well, you're just going to do 10 to the 5th pascals plus rho gh. The rho is 1,000. We'll use g of 10, and then the height is 5. So this is 50,000. This is 100,000, so it's 150,000 pascals. Something like that. Did I write that? 10,000, 50,000? Yep, okay. The more water is added, so the water reaches a depth of 7 meters. Calculate the new pressure at the bottom of the pool. Okay, well, that's 10 to the 5th plus 1,000 times 10 times 7, right? Because once you add more water, and honestly, it's something to do with the weight of the water, right? That's part of the reason that's happening. It's because that buoyant force, all of those forces in there, it's because of the weight of the water is doing this. This would be 170,000 pascals. If there's a hatch at the bottom of the pool with a radius of 5 meters, so we have a hatch down here, how much force is the water exerting on the hatch? Well, that force, right, is pressure times the area. So it's going to be the 170,000 times the area, which would be pi r squared, like that. So this would be the area. This would be the pressure down there. And let's use our calculator for this. 170,123 times pi times 0.5 squared. And I get 133,518 newtons, like that. Okay. Let's take a look at an example. This is a very common kind of scenario where you have different fluids here. Okay, so a U-tube with both ends is filled with a liquid density to a height of h on both sides. Liquid density is poured into one side. Liquid 2 settles on top of liquid 1. The two sides are different. The height of the top of the liquid 2 from the interface is h2. The height of the top of the liquid 1 to the level of interface h1. Derive a formula for the height difference. Okay, now this is the case. This is open. It's open with air. So over here is atmospheric pressure on both of those cases here. Okay, now here's the thing about the pressure things about this h is all that matters is the vertical distance. It does not actually matter that it's a weird shape or anything like that. It just matters what the vertical distance here is. Now, here's the thing. All down here has to have the same pressure. Why? Because it's the same fluid, and at the same height, it's got the same pressure. This pressure here is going to be P0, which is the atmospheric pressure, plus rho GH1. Why? Because the distance from here to here is still h1, even from there to there. Okay, even though it's at an angle, everywhere horizontally kind of has that same pressure, right? So all that matters. It doesn't matter that it's right below it. The height is just that vertical distance there. So at this point right here, we have P0 plus rho GH1. However, it's also got this other liquid, orange liquid here. So it also has to be the pressure from this is P0 at the top of this liquid, P0 plus rho 2 GH2. Okay, and this is rho 1 because we're talking about this liquid here. And so why is that true? Because same thing, right? It has the same pressure equation from here. And at this point, the pressure has to be the same from the orange and the blue. The pressures match because the net force has got to match there. It's not accelerating up or down. The net force is 0. So that means the pressure from the top liquid and the pressure from the bottom liquid got to be the same because the force is the same. So we're going to set these equal to each other. These cancel. And then we want the height difference, h2 minus h1. You can just solve for, say, h2 here. So the g's will cancel. So you get h2 is equal to rho 1 over rho 2 h1. And so the difference, h2 minus h1, you can do this quantity, rho 1 over rho 2 h1 minus h1, is just going to equal, you factor out an h1, rho 1 over rho 2 minus 1 times h1, like that. Okay, so that's one way to look at the difference there between that. And then, yeah, so let's look at another example, FRQ. So we have an experimental diving bell shown is lowered from rest to the ocean surface, reaches a maximum depth of 80 meters. So this is now 80 meters below. Initially, it accelerates downward at a rate of 0.1 meters per second squared until it reaches a speed of 2 meters per second, which remains constant. During the descent, the pressure inside the bell remains constant, 1 atmosphere. So inside here is 10 to the 5th pascals. The top of the bell is a cross-sectional area of 9 square meters, and the hatch is 0.25 meters radius there. Just got cut off there. Density. Calculate the total time it takes to reach the maximum depth. Okay, so this is, first part is a kinematics problem here. So we're going to start with a velocity of 0 here. It's going to accelerate downwards for 0.1 meters per second squared. And then it's going to it's going to be going at 2 meters per second. And then the rest of the time, the acceleration 0 because it's at constant. So we got to think of it as, because the acceleration is changing between the two parts of the motion from here to here and from here to here, we have to split it into the first half of the motion. Because remember, our kinematic equations only work when the acceleration is constant. So this is the first part of the motion. The initial velocity is 0. The acceleration is 0.1. We're going to end at 2 meters per second. And we want to know the total time it takes. So we want to know this quantity here. So we're going to use v equals v0 plus at. So the first part of the motion equals 0.1 times t. So t is going to equal 20 seconds. So the first part of the motion takes 20 seconds to go from there to there. Now the second part of the motion, he's just traveling at 2 meters per second with an acceleration of 0 because the speed is constant. And we want to know the time it takes, but we don't have enough information. We need to know how far this is. Well, we know the whole distance is 80 meters, but during this time, the second part of the motion, he's not going 80 meters. He's traveled a certain amount. So we need to figure out how far he has to go remaining. So here we're going to use whichever equation you want. I'm going to use this one, v plus v0 times t, which is fine. So that's going to be 1/2 times 0 plus 2 times 20 seconds. So that's going to be 20 meters. So that means the first part of the motion, here to here, he traveled 20 meters. So that means the remaining part that he's going at the constant speed's got to be 60 meters, right? So this is going to be 60. And then we can use this equation, but we know the acceleration is 0. So we get 60 is just equal to 2 times t. T is going to be 30 seconds. So 20 seconds for the first half, 30 seconds for the second half, 50 seconds is the total amount of time it's going to take. Okay, what's the weight of the water on the top of the bell when it's at maximum depth? Okay, weight of the water on top of the bell. That's a fancy way of saying how much force is acting on it, because what's on top of the bell is the weight of the water there. So it's going to be, so for part B, it's going to be the pressure times the area. Sorry, pressure. The force is going to be the pressure times the area. And that pressure at the top down here is the atmospheric pressure plus rho gh times the area here. So we're going to say that that's 10 to the 5th pascals plus rho 1025. We'll use g of 10, and we've traveled 80 meters from the surface, right? And then times the area, which is 9. So that's going to give you 1e5 plus 1025 times 10 times 80, and then all that times 9. I get 8.3 times 10 to the 6 newtons here. Pretty heavy. Calculate the absolute pressure on the top of the bell at maximum depth. Well, we found that already. So the pressure is just this portion here. And I get 9.2 times 10 to the 5 pascals. Okay. D, on top of the circular hatch is R00 2.25. Calculate the minimum force necessary to lift open the hatch to the bell at the maximum depth. Now you have to be very careful here because there's force from the water pressure, but there's some pressure inside here. So there's actually force from the air inside there because it's at 1 atmosphere. So we got like those two things there we got to think about. So let's look at the force of the water on the hatch. Is going to be the pressure times the area, and that's going to be the area is going to be pi r squared because we're just talking about the area of this hatch right here, not the entire area on top of the bell, but the area of the hatch. So it's 9.2 times 10 to the 5th times pi times 0.25 squared. So let's take a look at that. Times pi times 9.2 e5. So I got 181,000 newtons. Okay, let's look at the force from the air. It's going to be still pressure times area, but now it's just going to be 10 to the 5th times the area of the hatch. Right, so it's the force on the hatch from the inside air. Pi times 0.25 squared. Oops. I get this is 119,600 newtons. And so how much force do we need to open is going to be the difference between these two. I just want to double check I did the math right. And then, oh yeah, it should be about 10 times more. So we take the difference because the water is clearly pushing on a lot greater than it. So the difference is how much is going to be required for us to open this thing up. So we're going to do that minus that number, and I get 161,000 newtons, like that. What could you do to reduce the force necessary to open the hatch at this depth? You could increase the pressure inside of it. You could make the hatch smaller. Those are probably the two main things. So smaller hatch. If you can't do that, you would increase the air pressure. So you might pressurize it first and then sink it. Then it'll be easier to open because the inside pressure would be greater so that you wouldn't have to do as much. Those are probably the two main things that I would do. Thanks for watching. Please subscribe if you haven't already, just to like improve the quality of the channel so that it shows up more so we can share this out with more and more students out there. The other thing is if you do need extra help, if you're needing maybe some more practice questions, more guidance on multiple choice questions, we do have program options to help you practice. Also run office hours. I answer questions for students, things like that. A little bit more just structured guidance. If you feel like you're needing some of that, go ahead and click the description below. There will be a link that takes you to a website where you can see about how the different programs operate for all the AP Physics and AP Calculus programs we run.